What's the sales impact of our new ad? There's no quick way to tell. This isn't a tacky direct response ad. It's a long-term brand building. We're changing perceptions. It'll take 12 months to see the real impact. So, should I ask you again in 12 months? I will have moved on to another brand by then. Absolutely true. And what's fun about Tom is that we read the same people a little bit. We read Ritson and his friends. And so here you go. Hey Alex, thanks for the likes. Okay, so Fishburne says, I've been reading Ogilvy on advertising. One of my very favorite books is Confessions of an Ad Man. I'm gonna have to go get Ogilvy on advertising. I'm not sure I've read that one, but I've gone through Confessions of an Ad Man many, many times. And so Tom's reading this 1983 classic. I highly recommend Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins from 1929 or so, 20-something. So we're coming up on a 100-year anniversary of that. One constant is the challenge of how to measure sales impact in advertising. It's still a constant. It's still a problem. David Ogilvy says, for all the research, most advertisers never know for sure whether their advertisements sell. Too many other factors cloud the equation. But direct response advertisers who solicit orders by mail or telephone know to a dollar how much each advertising sells. I'm convinced that if all advertisers were to follow the example of their direct response brethren, they would get more sales per dollar. Every copywriter should start his career by spending 2 years in direct response. Or 40. And you know, if you look at some of the catalogs I'm working with right now, you'll say, those are beautiful. Those are fantastic. You know, there's nothing that non-brand building about those. They take the front cover and give you a good look. Yeah, take a deep breath is right. It says 4 decades later, you know, I started in 81. So, yes, I started my marketing consulting career. So we're coming up on my anniversary. I just passed September 21st. I think it will be 39 years, something like that. Yeah, 39 years. Okay, so he says there's an entrenched divide 4 decades later still in marketing between long-term brand building and short-term direct response. Executive Strategy Director at A&E DDB, Tom Roach, recently wrote an essay called The Wrong and Short of It, where he excoriates, it's completely opposite. And if you don't know what each of those words mean, it means he takes it on and chews it up and spits it out. Okay? He calls it wrong-termism. He says there's a lot of magical thinking that big, expensive, one-off ads like the Apple ad, the famous Apple ad of 1981 happens. They blew their whole year's advertising budget on one big ad to get attention, and they did, and the sales did take off. And so that's been the paradigm from 1983 till now, that we can just have a magical ad. If it's creative enough, we can run it on the Super Bowl, which Apple did, and it suddenly made them a big brand. It may be long-termism. Actually, Fishburne says it actually might be the long-termism, the magical thinking, that gives marketers a bad name. Marketers appear to be acting like selling is a dirty word. Whereas Ogilvy says if it doesn't sell, it isn't creative. Plus, there's the revolving door of marketing jobs, which on average change brands every 12 to 18 months. How do you even get an idea of what's going on? You can't. And here he says, actually, you can get sales activation going with promotions if they're consistent with a brand building approach, if they're not just 30% off, which is just lazy thinking. You should be able to advertise both immediately and forever. But I can tell you something else. You know, direct response is great, but there's another level. And I got really upset with the direct marketing Association and Direct Marketing Magazine back when I got started, because they defined direct marketing as the generation of a measurable response. Now today we know that clicks can measure duration, where did you come from. There's all kinds of measurement going on. We're measuring like we've never measured before. And so if they were to come back today, they would say, well, everything is direct response. And there's something to that. You know, I watched a sailing video last night, and they talked about no-cry products, and they had welding gloves that you could use for your grill, and I thought those looked pretty snazzy. I already have grill gloves, so I probably won't go with them. But they were less expensive than the grill gloves I bought. Who knows what the shipping would be. But the point is that I went to their website to find out about their products. And so their little sponsorship of this little sailing channel, you know, probably just for the cost of shipping the items to wherever they were, Dominican Republic, I think, probably for that minimal cost, they got a plug, and I went to their website so we could measure the movement from the shipment of the little box of stuff to their website. The trouble is that video originally ran a year ago, and if there isn't a direct connect, I mean, then there may be, but I don't think I clicked. There wasn't a link I clicked. I just typed the URL. No trackability whatsoever. Nothing. Zero. They just assumed that I went to Google, and for some magical reason, they connected it up. So that's kind of the state of direct response. Even when you generate a response, you don't know where it came from. Now, the alternative is direct marketing. What is direct marketing? What's the difference? I wrote the seminal academic definition. Well, Connie Bauer wrote it. And Connie wrote it in a very academic way. It helped her get tenure, so good for her. But the idea boiled down was that direct marketing is testing. It's isolating causal variables, because in science, we don't measure everything. We set up an experiment to measure something specific. That's why the scientific method does not start with experiment. Everybody thinks it does. That's not how it starts. It doesn't start with data. It starts with observation. We make an observation, we say, this might be the thing that affects things. And so in the COVID-19 story, we think it might be masks. It might be the density of population. It might be the distance from the equator. All of those seem to be a factor. It might be the level of obesity in a country. Okay, they all seem to matter. But you know, some have, because of malaria being more prevalent closer to the equator, some have isolated or suspected hydrochloroquine and its derivatives, and that could be the case. Okay, but others have noted that in the hydrochloroquine experiments, it was given primarily to people who were less serious. It was given it doesn't seem to have much effect once they're hospitalized, but it has a lot of effect once or before they're hospitalized. Well, the ones before they're hospitalized might never have been hospitalized. All these factors come into play. In fact, we're narrowing it down perhaps to vitamin D. And now there's a vitamin D, like a amped up vitamin D, that they're giving to patients when they get admitted with a positive COVID-19 test to the hospital. And it reduced the death rate 77%. That's 3/4. That's a lot. And they're doing alternative experiments. But you see the difficulty? So we start with an observation. Some places have more of an issue than others. That's the observation. We also observe all those different factors. Next, we try to set up the case study. Now, the difficulty in healthcare is that if you give a placebo where you know that a treatment is actually beneficial, you might kill people. And once you prove that it's beneficial, it's considered unethical to go back and verify it. In marketing, we don't worry about killing people. No, that's not right. We don't worry about holdout tests. We don't worry about split tests. The tricky part is the attribution. And the great part about direct mail, because of the high engagement, unlike digital or mass media, we know that the decision maker saw it. We don't just know that it went to the household. We know that someone with important decision-making capability, what goes in the trash, what goes to the kid in the basement, what goes to the dad. Don't send him the hunting catalogs. He'll buy stuff. That decision maker sees the mail, reads the mail, looks at the mail, opens the mail, or decides to throw away the mail. Okay? Because of the high engagement, we know that the ad was engaged with. We know that it was decided upon. We know that it was decided upon by a decision maker, unlike all the other advertising. And so we have the ability to isolate causal variables. We can create a dependent variable, which is sales, and we can look at correlating factors within that if we've set it up right. That gives us a labeled data set. That allows us to even bring machine learning and AI to bear on the situation. That's why mail is your best bet. Direct marketing thinking is your best bet. If you want to know what's working, these issues are crucial. That's enough for now. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.